In boys basketball, we're on to the semifinals. Connor Morissette, Alex Scar. Basketball is winding down, Alex, but a few marquee games coming up to determine some champions. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, a ton of games we took in this weekend that were really fun. We saw a couple of games on Tuesday that were a ton of fun. And of course, as we hope, the best is yet to come. The most fun will be happening this Friday. And then, of course, whoever makes it to the final game, it's going to be great for those programs. I cannot wait to see what City Basketball has in store for us.
Let's rewind a little bit. So the Open Division, that was last Friday, and those games, we saw Fairfax take care of business against Narbonne. El Camino Real really struggled against Westchester. Westchester kind of rolled them. The two close games, Birmingham 66, Gardena 60. Were you surprised by that score at all?
I think the score made the game look a little bit closer than it actually was. Following along for most of that game, it seemed like Birmingham kind of had it well in hand. In that game, David Elliott had 20 points.
He was the best player.
Corey Cofield had 16, so we usually expect to see the Cofields. Elisha Cofield didn't play, of course, but Corey Cofield seems to be leading that team down the stretch here. To see David Elliott go off for 20, maybe Gardena was game planning a little bit more. Maybe Cofield's shot was off a little bit. Elliott, as I mentioned, goes for 20. But I think that score line was just a little bit misleading. I think Birmingham beat them handily. You look at that score, maybe they made some late free throws and say, oh man, Gardena was in that game. Do think Gardena's a good team, but I think Birmingham head and shoulders better than they were.
Yeah, so as expected, Birmingham moves on. And then the game of the night, you were there. Taft, the 4 seed, falls to Washington Prep, the 5 seed. Quick pat on the back for me for picking that one.
You nailed it.
What went down in that game? Why was Taft unable to execute on offense the way we're so used to seeing them do that in years past? And even this year they've executed well. What was the difference that night?
Well, defensively, Washington Prep is one of the toughest teams to move the ball against. They really pressure up on the ball. They like to press in the half court. A very difficult team. They clog the passing lanes, and they press up on shooters. We talked about Taft. The three-pointers, you got to make them to beat a team. Washington Prep gave them absolutely no room to shoot. And offensively, this game was a slog. It was in the 30s going into the fourth quarter. One of the worst offensive showings I have seen. And both of these teams are incredibly talented with great offensive guards. Just both of these teams turn up the heat defensively. And then, of course, down the stretch, Noel Scott, I talked to him after the game. He had 21 points, I think 7 of 8 from the line, and a couple of huge free throws in that fourth quarter. And they put the clamps on him. Khalil Haywood led the Taft, I think, with 15 points, 14 points. But Diggy Winbush was held, I think, to 10. Brandon Wilson was in single digits. Demetrius Caleb was in single digits. So the offense never got going for Taft. And the thing Washington Prep really prides themselves on, Coach King, he said, I like our guards. I think Taft's guards could be better than Fairfax's guards. And if we can lock down Taft, I think we can lock down Fairfax.
Wow, so he's confident.
He's confident. I think I might still take Fairfax's guards, but the way I saw Washington Prep slow down a Taft team that we see put up a ton of points on a consistent basis, I was really impressed.
Okay, so that sets up two really great games. Westchester, Birmingham, we'll talk about that before getting into the Fairfax-Washington game. I think that's the marquee Open Division semifinal. I'm a little bit nervous for Birmingham because they beat El Camino Real twice, but remember, those games were neck and neck, so close. And seeing what Westchester was able to do against El Camino Real, this game will be at a neutral floor at Venice High Saturday, so at least it's not Birmingham going into Westchester where El Camino had a little bit of trouble there. But those teams are similar. Westchester, I think, will roll in this game. How do you feel?
Yeah, and it's when you're looking at teams that haven't played each other, you always want to find that common opponent. Right now for Birmingham, Westchester, common opponent, like you're mentioning, being El Camino Real. But if you dig just a little bit deeper into that Westchester game, Westchester got off to a 17-4 lead early in that second quarter. They forced 4 turnovers in that first quarter, and they hit a 3 coming right out of the break in that second quarter. So I think there was a bit of deflation on the side of El Camino Real. You know a good team like Westchester is going to be very hard. And then when they get out to a 14-point lead, I think that can be just a little demoralizing, tough to bounce back from. But for Birmingham, this is a scrappy, hard-nosed team that doesn't get down. We've seen them close in the final seconds in a lot of these ball games. They're not a team that gets down on themselves because we've seen El Camino Real take it to them early in some of these games. It's going to be a ton of fun. I think Westchester wins this one, but both these games, like we've seen, Westchester, far and away, were they better than El Camino Real? Yes, I think so. Birmingham maybe a little bit closer, but I expect this one to still be a nail-biter.
And if Elijah Cofield still can't play, that means Corey Cofield, who's listed as a guard on Max Preps, but has been playing in the post for Birmingham.
He's playing a lot of 4.
With his brother not being there, he'll probably have to guard KJ Allen, and that'll be a baptism by fire kind of matchup.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm really excited to see that game Saturday, just how Cofield responds. And looking at Westchester, all their guards are seniors. You have Jordan Brinson, Jeremiah Turley, Kevin Bethel, and then Kamani Pollard, who's underclassman. But the 3 big senior guards for Westchester, they'll be going up against a Birmingham backcourt that's really, really young and inexperienced with the exception of Ty J. Medley, who's a senior for Birmingham. So Westchester has the experience. They've been there before. I'm interested to see how this young Birmingham team will respond when Westchester comes out, and I think they're still pretty angry after what happened 2 times against Fairfax. They want to make a statement, and they have another opportunity to do so on Saturday.
Yeah, and the thing with Westchester is they're able to dunk and set that momentum on fire early. Birmingham doesn't quite have that firepower, and that's what happened at El Camino Real. Westchester was throwing it down early. They were getting turnovers. They were running in the break. They were putting down fast break dunks. That could demoralize a team early. So the key here for Birmingham, limit the turnovers, limit the offensive possessions on the other end, do what you can to keep it close, because like we see, when Westchester goes out to run, you can't stop them.
You have Westchester?
I've got Westchester.
Okay, so do I. Other game, Fairfax, Washington Prep. I think Washington Prep, you can make a case for them being the 3rd best team in the city. No
Absolutely.
disrespect to Birmingham, no disrespect to Taft, but the league kind of didn't let Washington Prep really flex its muscle a little bit. So for them to beat Taft and now play Fairfax, good on them. I'm excited for this game. And I give Washington Prep a shot. I know Fairfax, they haven't lost, it seems like, in weeks, and they're hot. They're really, really talented. I don't want to say they're going to overlook Washington because I don't think that's going to happen. I still will pick Fairfax, but I think this game's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be tight in the 4th quarter. Washington's defense is going to be really, really what will keep them in this game, I think, because the offense sometimes is a little bit slow for them. If they can make shots, they got a chance. I think Fairfax will win, but I really think it's going to be a tight game.
Yeah, make shots, stay out of foul trouble, because when you put those shooters on the line, Rob McCray, Keith Dinwiddie, Ethan Anderson, pretty good from free throw line. So they're going to be able to make those and make you pay for some of those early fouls. But we saw against Taft, or at least I did, really, really tough defensive team. Taft had a hell of a time getting the ball into the paint. They really couldn't shoot because Washington Prep was pressing on all of the shooters. And you mentioned the tough league. Rumor is Washington Prep may be moving into the Coliseum League.
That'd be great.
So that would be really, really nice for that program. Give them some breathing room. Of course, they play King Drew, who's a good team, but the rest of that league is just not really up to par. So them moving into the Coliseum League would help that program tremendously. I just can't wait for it Saturday.
Hanson Clark is my X factor in that game. He's the one knockdown 3-point shooter that Washington Prep has. If he can consistently make shots, and on the defensive end, Washington can kind of combat Robert McCray, all those great guards, Ethan Anderson, Ronald Mitchell, Keith Dinwiddie. There's so many. If they can defend those guys and not let them get hot from 3, and we'll flip the script a little bit and say Hanson Clark does get hot. It's a big ask because it's kind of 4-on-1 in that situation. But if he's knocking down shots, he's going to have to if Washington has a chance. I think that will be a big reason for them to be in the game. I expect him to have a nice game.
Yeah, my matchup to watch is Ethan Anderson and Hassan Huey.
Yeah.
That's the point guard matchup. If Hassan can slow down Ethan Anderson, if he can keep him away from the rim, we see that when Ethan is in trouble, he tends to look for his teammates, as all good point guards do, but that then makes somebody else have to get hot. We saw Keith Dinwiddie get insanely hot against Westchester. Probably not going to happen again. So if you're able to slow down one of those offensive weapons and make the other guys make the difference, you're going to have more of a chance. Hassan Huey's given up, I think, about 6 inches in this matchup, so it's going to be difficult. But I think when I saw Hassan press up against Diggy Winbush, shut him down almost entirely in that first half, I wouldn't be surprised if he gave Ethan Anderson some fits.
Let's move on to Division I, recap some of the quarterfinal action. Last night, Alex, it was close. Granada Hills. Grant was giving Granada Hills trouble. Eventually, the Highlanders came out on top by a score of 57-46, but through 3 quarters, that game was really tight. And I saw Grant's first-round game against Dorsey when they snuck by the Dons in that game. And after, the mood was, we want Granada. They embarrassed us earlier in the year. We want to put up a fight against them and play a lot better. They did that. They still fell short. But you were at that first game, and that was an annihilation. Yeah. That was not the case the other night.
Yeah, and I think Grant, to their credit, they knew how Granada's going to game plan them, and the guards for Grant had to make plays. And I think the Panosian, I think he had a nice game, and of course Chase Pawnees, I think he had a double-double like he does every single game. So it seemed like Grant, they were playing their game. Unfortunately, in these games, if you can't sneak by a team, if it gets deep in the 4th quarter, talent disparities and depth can kind of come back to bite you a little bit. Granada, just a little bit deeper, a little bit more talented. But Grant, getting by Dorsey was one test. If they could have got past Granada Hills, I think it would have been total pandemonium in that Division I quarterfinals and into the semifinals. But good on Grant for sticking tough, and Granada Hills, overall number 1 seed, right where we expected them.
Yeah, Joel Carrillo and Diego Carrillo, 2 brothers, they were great for Granada in that game. And like I said, it was really tight for 3 quarters, but then in the 4th, Granada clamped down and ended up taking it home. 12, View Park 71, 4, Palisades 64.
How about that one?
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back again. That was a big one.
Thank you, but my wrong picks are coming up soon, so I won't give myself another pat on the back.
We'll do it now before we remember.
But I like the two matchups for View Park. I thought they could beat Sylmar, and it took a crazy three-quarter court shot that we'll show right now if you haven't seen it from Christian Johnson. Incredible shot. So they snuck past Sylmar, and then they knocked out Palisades a year ago at home in the playoffs, and I just think that was a terrible matchup for Pally last year. I know View Park looks a little bit different. It was a bad matchup again for Palisades, and they were up in that first half, I think, by double digits at one point, but View Park fought back. Corey Curtis, 23, Rodney Bradley, 15 points. Christian Johnson had 14 points. And like I said, second year in a row, View Park eliminates Pally. It's a bugaboo for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it absolutely stinks. You talk about Corey Curtis and the 23. What stuck out to me, 7 steals. Wow. 7 steals. That's a ton of turnovers Pally was committing. I'm sure View Park was doing their best forcing those turnovers. But when you're spotting 7, and I imagine there were more turnovers than that. I'm going to say about 10. If there's one guy getting 7 steals, probably going to be more. So if you're spotting them 10 extra possessions and you lose by 7, you go back to the drawing board, you look at that game and say, we gave them 14 points. We spotted them 14 points when we should have been able to close this game because Pally, if you remember, in that third quarter, looked like they might put View Park away, but of course things kind of shook out the way they did. Christian Johnson, and you mentioned Corey Curtis had a great game. View Park, man, into the semifinals. You called it the 12th seed, making their way in there.
Yeah, and they're one of the teams in Division I that you thought maybe the seed was a little bit questionable.
Well, we talked about the Coliseum League getting jobbed. View Park, I think, and Fremont, who we'll talk about in a second, both the biggest examples of just lower seeding. Sylmar getting the 5, that ended up being a great game. But View Park at the 12, huge sleeper.
Yeah, don't let the 12 seed fool you. View Park always had the potential to get to this level. Now they get the 1 seed on the road in the Valley. That'll be a great game on Friday. I won't tip my bet quite yet, but I did pick Granada Hills to win it all, so probably going to stick with them. University 48, Crenshaw 47. You were there, Alex. It was a little bit sloppy. Looked like Crenshaw might have it down the stretch. David Cheatham was great, though, for University. Kind of willed them to a win. What happened?
Ugly, ugly, ugly. For the first 3 quarters.
Kind of like my game, too.
Really tight. No team led by more than 5 points. In the fourth quarter, one of the most exciting games I've been to. I got to give them credit. The Uni crowd showed up. But the X factor for me, and I'm going to go back to what I said last week. I said David Cheatham, he's the best player on the floor. He will make the difference. And he did. He had 23 points, 12 rebounds. I think he had 4 steals, a couple of blocks. The kid was a monster. Crenshaw didn't really have an answer for him. They led through this game, and they could have closed. In fact, University was almost daring them to beat them, win that game. Right? They had 4 turnovers within a minute.
I bet Steve Ackerman was not happy.
Oh, he was livid. There was one point he grabbed the basketball and he wanted to slam it and bounce it back up into the rafters. He was so angry. But University, to their credit, they closed. David Cheatham hit 2 huge free throws at the end of the ball game. Ended up clinching this one. Now they get Fremont next, and that will be a ton of fun.
Yeah, so we'll pat you on the back for having Uni. I had Crenshaw, 1-point loss, and it hurts, but that's the name of the game. And we'll pat you on the back again because I had King Drew. They fell to Fremont 52-50, and for 3 quarters, this game wasn't really great. After 3, Fremont, who was in control for the vast majority of the game, they led after 3, 40-30, so very low scoring. I was really wondering what was up with King Drew's offense. And then, bam, Coach Lloyd Webster at King Drew. They were pressing a little bit, but they go all out, started pressing the crap out of Fremont in that fourth quarter. Next thing you know, King Drew's up by 3. Kobe Craig had fouled out for Fremont, the great big guy they have, and it looked like King Drew was going to take it and go to the semifinals. But then Chris Bradford kind of took over, the senior guard for Fremont, hit the big shot at the end to win them the game. And Fremont, wow, how much can we say about them from losing their coach, losing a couple players? I saw them in that first Coliseum League game against Crenshaw. They kind of got run out of the gym in the second half. Now they're still playing. Crenshaw isn't. And they have a shot to win this, and you picked them to win. So
I did.
Thank God that they won for you.
Yeah, right. It was looking a little hairy. I had them at the 7-10 against Van Nuys. Some people were thinking Van Nuys. I was like, man.
Van Nuys almost beat them.
They almost beat them, so I would have lost my champion.
But they're a championship caliber team. I totally think that.
They're very good. They got a really good combo set of guards. I'm talking about Chris Bradford a ton, and we got to give Chris Page, the sophomore, he's got a ton of skill. This kid's going to be great when he's a senior. And if you haven't had a chance to watch the Building Character story I did on Fremont, I urge you all to go watch it on our YouTube. It's called Building Character Fremont Basketball. The coaching staff there, head coach Danny Williams, is building a program. It was great getting to know the guys, great getting to know the coach, and I'm just, you don't never want to pick a team, you never want to pull for a team more than one of the others, but I'm really impressed by the way they've bounced back and come back from some of this adversity. So Fremont basketball, man, really, really impressed with what they've done. and they've got a shot here to go to a Division I championship game if they're able to take down University.
Yeah, so we'll pick that in a second. Akala Lenoir for Fremont had 10 points. Do you want to throw his name in the ring too? Because remember, Fremont, they really only play with 7 or 8 guys.
Right, yeah.
They don't have too many
very short rotation
on that roster, which is another reason I thought King Drew kind of had it in the bag when they went on that run in the fourth quarter. I was just not sure if Fremont had enough legs, and they ended up taking care of business. So let's pick these Division I games, Alex. So View Park, Granada Hills, the 12-1 game. I have Granada in my bracket. They're the 1 seed. They're at home. I think, or is it actually at Birmingham?
It's Italy at Birmingham.
So still kind of at home for Granada Hills. View Park will travel far away. I'm taking Granada Hills, and this is such a cop-out, but if View Park won, I wouldn't
be surprised.
Like, oh, okay. But my next game, I'm a little bit more sure. Give me Granada in this one.
Yeah, Granada Hills. I'm going to be extra sure. I think View Park, they're a good team, but Granada Hills, they're deeper.
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine.
Exactly, a well-oiled machine.
Does a great job.
Coach Loperena, I think he was the coach of the year last year.
Yeah.
He's going to have a shot to be coach of the year this year. Of course, they were an open team last year, so maybe got a little more love. This time, they got a chance to take home a city title. I got Granada Hills by 10.
Okay, wow.
Sorry, View Park. I didn't pick you at the beginning, so I'm going to stick with it.
So I had King Drew winning this semifinal. They lost to Fremont. I'm going to stick with the team who eliminated my pick. I have Fremont over University. David Cheatham will be the best player in that game, in my opinion. But the big 3 of Fremont, we've talked about them: Chris Bradford, Chris Page, Kobe Craig. 3 is greater than 1. I have the Pathfinders.
Wow.
I think they move on to the championship, and we'll see a classic Granada Hills Fremont D1 championship game. Ooh, I am excited by that. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, if you skipped Algebra 2 this morning, thank God you brought everybody back to speed. 3 is greater than 1, and I think Connor is on to something. Fremont, one of the more talented teams here in this bracket. Got to take the Mont
way.
The Mont way, man. I'm sticking with it. And I saw that game against Crenshaw for University. They had 1 player. Nick Smith had a great game. I think he had 15 points, but there was 1 guy that carried the load. For Fremont, they're going to have to deal with a 3-headed monster, as you mentioned. Algebra 2 class in session. 3 is greater than 1. I got Fremont.
Let's take a look at some of the other divisions after Open and D1 and Division 2. Alex, I like Manual Arts. You like Kennedy. Both these teams are still alive. Banning, though, the surprise at number 13.
Yeah, number 13, they get number 1 seed Eagle Rock. Now, of course, Kennedy, the game against Roosevelt in North Hollywood was, just awful situation. So they had to play their game a couple of days ago. So now Kennedy and Roosevelt play tonight. Make me proud, Kennedy. Go get me a win so you can move on and play Manual Arts and then beat them so that I'm right and Connor's wrong.
We could have a head-to-head championship battle. I didn't even think of that.
But Division 2, it looks like it's shaking out, except for Banning at the 13 seed. Looks like it's shaking out as we expected.
Yeah. Division 3, we each like Southeast. They will play Roybal on Friday in their semifinal. And then Hawkins, number 11, they're at number 2, Poly. Talked to a couple coaches in the city. They said Poly should not be in this division, so maybe they're kind of a dark horse team. We thought Southeast would just kind of roll, but Poly, they get Hawkins, who's number 11. They're the surprise. Everyone's telling me Poly. So look for Poly Southeast in that championship.
Yeah, I think so too. Poly's blown out just about everybody that they've played so far, and they get Hawkins. I expect another blowout. And as you mentioned, Poly Southeast, nice little matchup there. Both of these teams, we talked about Southeast maybe being underseeded, should have been bumped up to Division 2. Poly, if they win the Division 3 championship, are they going to be bumped up next year? We'll see, but good for the Parrots.
In Division 4, I like Jefferson, 5 seed. Boom, still alive. Alex like Maywood Academy.
Boom, still alive.
They're still alive. And that's all I got for Division 4. What else do you have?
Yeah, well, our leader, the number 1 seed, and you got Jefferson,
they're
the 5.
blowing out everyone, so
our
I'm
leader's
a little nervous for Jefferson.
I think your run might come to an end here. But Maywood gets San Fernando. San Fernando's had a bit of an up-and-down season, but they're the 2 seed down there in Division 4. This is the cleanest division we've seen so far. No real big upsets, no real big surprises. And Maywood, I don't care if it's like their 4th year in existence. I'm picking them to beat the Tigers. Sorry.
In Division 5, USC Hybrid, we had them going all the way to the 1 seed. Well, they lost to Rivera, so there goes that. How about Maywood CES, 13 seed? They're alive. They're my pick. I'm going to the 13 seed.
Yeah.
Upset. Win it all. Maywood CES. Macis.
Yeah,
Boom.
Macis, so they like the AAA at Maywood. I don't really know how that all works. But across the bracket, it's Sun Valley Magnet against Math and Science College Prep. So if you're looking for something to do Friday night, it's going to be a barn burner.
Yeah, so that's Division 5. We'll see you guys in the championship. Game balls, Alex. Predictable. We've talked about these guys. I have Chris Bradford from Fremont, the game-winning shot in a quarterfinal game in the playoffs. Doesn't get much better than that. Yeah. King Drew did have a chance right at the end to score with like 5 seconds left, but for all intents and purposes, that was the last shot in that game. It's a game-winning shot, quarterfinal game. Chris Bradford, have yourself a day. You get the game ball this week. Great player, and we expect big things from Fremont. We think that they'll make a championship game, so Chris, keep up the good work.
Yeah, talking about players that are the best player on the floor, David Cheatham against Crenshaw, absolutely dominated. He was the best player I saw all night long, had 23 and 12, just a walking double-double. This kid's a machine and the best player on the floor. Just about every single game. In the game against Fremont, we talk how great we love Fremont. We talk about how good Chris Bradford is. Will David Cheatham be the best player on the floor that night? I think he's got a great shot to. Remember, kid's only a junior. Still got a whole senior year of basketball left to play. I hope he sticks at uni, but for now, David Cheatham, game ball for me.
And Alex, you came up with a great idea on Instagram for people to ask us some questions, and I wrote down a couple, but there were a lot more than a couple of questions, so let's rip through some of these Instagram questions. Why don't you take the lead here?
Well, Fremont winning basketball and soccer, that's one of the questions that we got. You're the soccer expert, so I think you'll be easier to answer this question, but basketball, I think, yeah, they got a shot.
I agree for basketball. For soccer, I'm sorry, Division I, it's tough. They had to go to overtime with number 22, Reseda. That was a bad look. So for soccer, I'm saying no, but for basketball, I think they got a great opportunity. Granada Hills will be tough in that championship if they're able to get by Uni, and Granada beats View Park. But they have an opportunity. They're one of the last 4 teams. I don't think Fremont Soccer will make it that far.
Yeah, I hate to bust out my phone. It's so unprofessional. But we're getting questions in here by the minute. The latest one, do you believe Lock Basketball will win those rings? I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, Lock's done.
Lock's done. Lock's eliminated. Score prediction for Uni against Fremont. That comes from 10 Kobe 4. So 10 Kobe 4, thanks for the question. Score prediction for Uni Fremont. High scoring, low scoring. I'm going to set the over-under at 55.5 for the winning team. What do you got?
Whoa, Fremont's going to score more than that, I think. I have Fremont winning 68-60 over University.
Wow. Yeah, I think Fremont, in my bracket prediction, they're going to win this one. You guys don't keep up with track or volleyball? Well, that's the spring sports season. We got plenty of that coming, but for now, what do you got?
I keep up with volleyball. Palisades winning the Open Division for girls basketball, covered all those city championships. For boys, Palisades is going to run away with it again. Akil Tangator, Justin Howard, big-time Division I volleyball commits for that team. Look out for them. Pally, they're the class of the city section for boys volleyball. Chatsworth will be good. El Camino Real will be good, as always, but it's Pally's to win, or to lose, excuse me, and they're going to win.
Brian 48 comes at us with baseball needs some love, and don't worry, Brian.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing our baseball show. Remember those, Alex?
Ton of baseball show. I think the most fun that we have. We get to stand out in the sun. We get to relax. It's not raining like it is here. And baseball, I've got league predictions coming. Every single Division I team in the city section will be previewed. So keep an eye out for that one. That's gonna be a ton of fun.
High on Bell. He likes Bell.
I do. I like Bell. They got a couple of stud arms, man. If you're pumping 90 in the city section, that's going to be tough. Just throw strikes. Gonzalo 44 comes at us with, what happened to USC Hybrid's going to breeze through the playoffs? Egg on our face.
That was bad. Sorry, USC, or sorry, other teams. Not sorry, USC Hybrid. They should apologize to us.
And maybe my favorite question here comes from Ken. He says, top 5 guards in the Open Division? Question mark. So this one's a ton of fun. I'll jump on it first. My top 5 guards in order right now. Now, of course, quick disclaimer. Some of these guys aren't really guards, but for all intents and purposes, if you're 6'5", you're a guard. Like guard, forward, not a whole lot of differences there. Number 1, Ethan Anderson over there at Fairfax. I think he is by far the best guard right now in the city section. Best finisher I have seen all season. Number 2, Jordan Brinson over there at Westchester. An absolute monster, hyper athletic, incredibly tough to guard, and quick. Robert McRae, number 3 at Fairfax. So Fairfax coming in with the 1 and the 3 on my list. EA and Rob McRae, tough kids, tough to guard. Number 4, Noel Scott over there at George Washington Prep. So we're going to see Noel Scott and these Fairfax guards go head-to-head. And then number 5, I've got a 3-way tie. Diggy Winbush.
Cop out.
A little bit. You know, I got to get all my guys some love. Diggy Winbush over there at Taft. He's the point guard, one of the best players I've seen this year. JaVale Collins, a dog over there at El Camino Real. And Corey Cofield. He might be, you know, maybe the biggest tweener here. He's more of a forward. He's been playing a lot of 4 and 5 for Birmingham down the stretch. Kid's a sophomore, one of the most talented players I've seen here in the city section. So those are my top 5 guards. In your opinion, this Division I playoff, who's the best guard you've seen?
Well, senior, I like Chris Bradford a lot. I was a little disappointed with King Drew's guard play. Granada Hills, you got to give Jesse Benute a shout out. Yeah. Joel Carrillo as well. Those are 2 really good guards up there for Granada. So there's some guys. University, it's kind of David Cheatham, and there's a little bit of a drop off. And he's a forward, so we'll leave him off that list. So yeah, Bradford, Page for Fremont. I like the Carrillo brothers and Jesse Benute at Granada Hills. View Park, I like Christian Johnson. Those are the best guards from the guys who are still alive. Reese Dixon is really good at Dorsey.
And the last question, because I think this one's great. This one comes from Vitzik.ig. Just a question. Do you guys dislike Cleveland because you guys never have them in your favor?
No, I did a story on Cleveland football last year, how they sent all those guys to college. I think it's too bad Coach Matt Gentle isn't there anymore.
Yeah,
I really
that's
liked
tough.
him.
Tough
But they got a new coach, and it looks like he's got a good thing going there. I don't hate Cleveland at all. In basketball, kind of had a tough year this year. Football, they were in
Tough
Division
year.
I, got moved up, so it's been a little bit tough for Cleveland in the sports that we cover. But baseball, Alex, we're high on them in baseball.
Very
that's for
much
sure.
so.
They're a top 5 city section team, if not top 3.
Yeah, I've got them right now in our early top 10 sneak peek. I got Cleveland sitting at 3. Last year, go ahead, give us some hate because we weren't as high on Cleveland as we should have been. And of course, football and basketball, they lost to Crenshaw in both of those sports in the first round of the playoffs. So maybe a program on the rise, but baseball, if you're a Cleveland guy, watch Baseball Man. We'll be all over it.
This has been great, these questions. Maybe we'll do an Instagram Live at some point. And
Yeah.
just have people rip questions
Absolutely.
for a 30-minute session or something. That's Alex Garr. I'm Connor Morissette. Semifinal basketball coming your way this weekend. I'm excited. We'll see you then.